Hello, hello. So excited to have Annemarie Stolting. She is passionate about living an intentional life full of meaning and purpose. She hosts the podcast Let's Slow Down, a space for meaningful discussions on the benefits and daily habits of slow living. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I believe it's exactly what the doctor ordered for our times. She lives out in the country of New Jersey. Yes, you heard that correctly, in the country, with her husband, three children, and two rescue dogs. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, taking walks in nature, and playing the clarinet. She cannot live without dark chocolate or wine. Yes, give me that dark chocolate anytime.
Believe it.
Welcome, Anne Marie.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
So nice to have you. So, one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on the show is because you, I think, like a lot of people, in this time, we've talked about the idea or the theme of slowing down because we all had to at some point in the past couple of years.
Mhm.
And so, what was interesting to me is first, let's get into your story because I think how you're embodying that and what you've seen happen in your life, I think can help a lot of people just to see what's possible. Sometimes we don't know what to model if we haven't seen it yet, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about, you have a family, you have three kids. What does slowing really look like to you?
Well, it looks different every single day, as you can imagine. And, you're talking about modeling behavior. And my three children were my inspiration and really the tipping point for me to model better behavior. I did not
Yeah.
want to be modeling the type of life that is go, go, go all the time. That leads to stress, that leads to, lack of patience and just feeling kind of frazzled. And that's where we were at. And I think that where a lot of people are at. And that's where we go
Mhm.
back to if we're not really careful every single day because life is busy. So my inspiration was my children. I wanted to show them that there can be a different way and that we don't have to
Mhm.
do all of the things all of the time. And
Mhm.
I really felt that if I wasn't modeling it for them and my husband wasn't modeling it for them, and we weren't making a conscious effort as a family to live a certain way, then, life takes over, right? And all of a sudden, we're reacting to our situation and our environment rather than calling the shots and being in control. So that was my inspiration for really trying to make some changes in my own life, in my life here with my family. So, a little bit of background. I am a former teacher. Once I had my third child, I have three kids, and once I had my third, I decided that made more sense to stay home. Me and my husband decided it'd make more sense to stay home for a while with them. And, whether there's a full-time job in the picture or things are busy. So, stopped working. I did remove the full-time job, but I also added another child into the family. So, it was kind of just like swapping one full-time job for another full-time job. It certainly was the right decision for me personally. I know not always the right decision for everyone, but for us, it worked. And yeah, kind of thought that once I stopped working a traditional job and became a stay-at-home mother, that things would calm down and be so much not necessarily easier, but just simpler, calmer. We'd have so much more time to fit everything in. And I think what happens is you just remove one thing, but you fill it with something else if you're not careful. And I don't think I was
Mhm.
particularly careful. And I'm not saying that things were bad, but things were wonderful. I felt very, very, very fortunate. to be able to stop working for a little while when my kids were little. And I've gotten to be on both sides of things as a working full-time working mom and as a full-time stay-at-home mom. So I felt lucky. I felt lucky, and you don't get those years back with the
Yeah.
kids and all those things. So things were good. I don't want to make it sound like they weren't. I have a very
Mhm.
supportive husband. I have supportive parents, the grandparents. So lots of positives, lots of great things happening. Overall,
Mm.
a really awesome life. But things can get busy and things can just become full, even if it's all good things, right? We can still fill our plate with
Mhm.
too many good things, too many blessings. No, it sounds kind of strange, but that's
Yeah.
sort of what happens. When we're lucky people, we have a lot of good friends, we have huge families, and we try to see
Mhm.
everybody, pretty often. So
Mm.
if we weren't careful and things just got really busy and I felt tapped out and I really did find myself feeling pretty burnt out. And then here
Mm.
comes the pandemic, and I was not upset about a lockdown. I mean, I certainly didn't want it to be for the reason that it was, don't get me wrong, but I kind of looked at it as like, this is great. We can be home with
Mhm.
the family and have some really, quality time together and all of those things. And I really felt like, okay, this is going to really help us all see that being too busy doesn't serve us all that well. And when things do start to go back to quote unquote normal, we won't fill up our schedules as much and we won't be as busy. But
Mhm.
it happened. Life started to go back to
Mhm.
normal. All the things, press play. It was like we just resumed where we left off. I don't know. I just finally, just in the last year, I was like, maybe it was turning 40, the midlife thing. But I thought, the only person who can change this is me, right? I have a choice. We have a choice.
Mhm.
So I have been making a huge effort to slow things down, all of it.
Mm.
Schedules, just simplifying the stuff, decluttering,
Mhm.
and it does make a world of difference. And it's something that I'll constantly be working on forever because you have to make that conscious effort every day and be intentional about it. But is a way of life that I think is a little bit flies under the radar, but could be so helpful.
Yeah, I love that you said, I mean, first of all, your story is so real. So many of us have gone through that. And I think to be able to, like, oh, yeah, me too, right? Like, yes, we just hit play. And what did we come back to? Um, it makes me wonder, what does slowing down really mean? And how is that different for different personalities or different kinds of people? So, as an example, slowing down for my mom looks very different than it does for me because of she's just built in a particular way that she has this ability to, and it's important for her to like burn a lot of energy, right? Like physically doing things. And there's a lot of people that are built that way in something that I do called human design. That's part of what we look at is how are you built energetically so that you can use your energy for your life purpose the best way. But for others, slowing down looks different. So what has slowing down, what did that look like for you? So is it more schedule related? You talked about decluttering. I thought that was a really interesting correlation, like slowing down and
Mhm.
also sort of like simplicity. So can you tell me more about what that looks like for you?
Sure. I believe that slowing down is really just making a conscious effort, make time for the things that really matter to you, that really fill your cup,
Mm,
and
mm,
make those the priorities. So make those the number one when you're making your decisions, whether you're deciding to say yes or no to another obligation. And
mm,
letting all the rest go to the wayside a little bit. Not that you don't do the other things, I still do, but I do less of the other things and I'm
mm,
much more careful about what I let in. and what we commit to
Mm.
as a family. With 3 children that are all very
Mhm.
active, it can easily time can easily be filled up just just with regular stuff before you add activities, extra sports, all the other things.
Mhm.
So, you were talking about human design, and you and I have talked about that a little bit, and you were spot on with me. And you and I have a lot in common in that area. And I have a similar mother as you. So that is interesting.
Mhm. That is.
Right? That we turned out so different. Um,
Yes.
it took me a while. It really wasn't until a couple of years ago that I started learning, and the term human design is fairly new to me, but very interesting. I'm really fascinated by all of it because I think it does go hand in hand with your personality type and like the Myers-Briggs kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And I
Yeah.
learned not too long ago that I'm an introvert. And I honestly was
Mm.
shocked. I was shocked because I didn't really understand what an introvert was. So my
Mhm.
definition of an introvert is just someone who needs like quiet and space and a little bit of alone time or a lot of alone time
Mhm.
to charge your battery. So I kind of always thought it meant you were really shy and maybe you didn't love being around people, and that's not me. I am a people person, and I'm not real shy,
Mhm.
but too much of those things tire me out. So
Yeah.
I said I come from a huge family. I never ever grew up at a holiday or any kind of and actually my Irish Italian side of the family, we used to meet every single Sunday. My grandmother would make spaghetti dinner, and there was like 40 of us there.
Wow.
Maybe
Yeah.
30, but there was a lot of us. And we do every
Mhm.
weekend and we love it, there was
Mhm.
never a sit down meal. Everything was always family style and buffet because there wasn't enough tables, chairs and place settings for all these people. It was just a free for all,
Mhm.
but it was wonderful. We
Mhm.
had a great childhood, such good memories of all that. And luckily, we all still do keep in touch for the most part, fairly local. And we still have Christmases with 30, 40 people. We have a Thanksgiving where we have to rent a
Wow.
hall because there's so many. So,
That's
and
fun.
I love those things. I do cherish them.
Says the extrovert.
Yeah. We literally
Yeah.
would have name tags for Thanksgiving because there were so many huge families. We'd each have somebody be the pilgrims and the turkeys, and it was pretty funny. So that is those are some of my fondest childhood memories, these big family gatherings. But
Mm.
to balance that out, I need some quiet time. If I'm gonna have a huge Christmas like that, then the next day I need to not do very not talk to a lot of people. It
Yeah.
just tires me out. I love it, but it tires me
Mm.
out. So once
Mm.
I realized that, it was sort of an aha moment because so many things about myself started to make once I realized, okay,
Mm.
that's personality. And that is something that I don't know. You tell me, Catherine, you probably know better, but that's something that is ingrained in us. We can't change that. That's who we are, right?
Yeah, so I think there's so much that has been written around this topic, and it's been a really interesting topic to me because I have I feel like I have a really good in my family, there's like half of us are extroverted and half of us are introverted. I was actually really surprised to find out that my dad was introverted because, like you, when I see him with people, and usually it's people that he knows, so family, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to make is that when he's with people that he knows, he looks like an extrovert, right? He feels comfortable. He's out, he's mingling, he's doing his thing. But I asked him, I don't remember when it was, just a couple years ago, and he's like, "No, I'm an introvert." Like he's not going to be out there trying to like make new friendships and doing this thing. He does it through the thing he does, right? Through business. But he's not out there doing, having these other extracurricular activities and meeting all these people. So the point I'm making with that is that there's always, first of all, there's introvertedness doesn't mean that you don't like hanging out with people, but sometimes it looks like you have your group of friends and that's where you feel like energetically you can just relax and almost recharge. I think there's some people that maybe drain you more than others, right?
Mhm.
Depending on like how extroverted you feel like you have to be or what's being demanded of you, I guess,
Yeah,
energetically, like without
sure.
even, people saying it. Yeah. So there's also a spectrum in terms of how extroverted you are or how introverted. That's such a good point that you brought up because that's definitely going to look different for someone that's an extrovert, right?
Yes.
Depending on the personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once I learned that, I asked my kid. This was a couple of years ago. So
Mm.
I don't
Yes.
know. They were probably like 5, 8, and 11 or something, where along those ages. And my older two, they didn't even really have to think twice. And I may have answered the same way when I was younger. So they were like, nope, we're extroverts. The more gatherings, the more activities, the better. My little one was pretty young at the time, but I thought, I can tell she's definitely more me. My husband's an extrovert for sure. So kind of interesting. So we have 2 introverts and 3 extroverts in this house.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And how do you balance that? So when you have different personalities in a home, how do you go about, okay, you say as the matriarch, right? We're going to slow down. We're going to have less things on our schedule. And now how do you navigate the different personalities and make sure that you're taking care of each one of them?
Yeah, that is tricky. I don't really have a definitive answer on that as I am still figuring it all
It's a
out.
process. Yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
process for sure. I think it was important for me to explain to my kid and to my husband. I mean, I hadn't even realized it, so how is he supposed to know? So, explain
Mm-hmm.
to them that, "Hey guys, this is me. This is mom. This is how I feel. I I can't go, go, go all the time." And since I'm the main person who is sort of in charge of getting them to all their places and to all the things, sometimes that has to be taken into consideration. So, we are working on it as a family, but I can give you one good example. Our fall and our spring are very busy. Very busy.
Mm-hmm.
Those happen to be the main sports my kids play, and just, fall with back to school. It's always crazy. Even when I was teaching before I had kids, every September is just a lot. A lot to get back into that
Mm-hmm.
routine, that school routine coming off the summer. So throw in fall sports and a lot of other clubs and activities, everything picks back up. So fall's really busy. And then we have a bit of a lull for winter and picks back up in March-ish. So the kids, if they had their wish, they would be going full speed ahead the whole year. So I said to them, I can't do this. This is a lot for me. I can't do this every single season. So winter for
Mm-hmm.
us does look slower. And I live in New Jersey and the sun is out today, but it's kind of cold and gloomy for the winter. And I don't do great in that kind of weather. I'm working on that too. But I kind of want to hunker down, hibernate. So doing less feels better, feels feels more manageable for me during the winter season.
Mm-hmm.
And they have gotten on board with that. I think that they also recognize the need to slow down a bit at some point. So by the end of football and field hockey and everything that was happening in the fall, Thanksgiving came and we were ready. We all needed a little bit of a break to not kind of school every day and then, shoving dinner down your throat and running to practice after practice and meeting and everywhere. So I think by having both sides, experiencing the really busy season and then the quieter season, I think that they are recognizing the importance of both. And
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that it's a good lesson for them to learn. And when they're older, if running, if they do okay with that and they can do it every season, then they'll make that decision. But they'll make that decision really with doing their homework and knowing both sides, which I think is really important. And going along with trying to model for that, My son is almost 12 and he does ski club at school. And ski club is on Thursdays and it's only 6 weeks, I think. It's not for too long, but they leave right from
Mhm.
school and they go drive about an hour away, go skiing, eat dinner there, really organized. These gym teachers are saints. They run this club and they take 4 coach buses of middle schoolers to a mountain. God bless them.
Wow.
Oh, yes. And then they don't get back. We pick them up at the school about 9:30 at night, and then they still have school the next day, Friday. So, it's a long day. Like I said, it's short-lived. It's only a few weeks, but he loves it. He's going with all his friends. It's great. So, he has that on Thursday, and he's doing a small, like a lacrosse clinic. So, it's not lacrosse season, but there's some pickup game, no practices or anything. That's the only reason I said yes to it. Wasn't full.
Mhm.
He had that on Saturday. So this was a couple weeks ago. So here's Friday in between. And his friends were going out and doing something Friday. And he was really sore. It had been the first week skiing and he was just pretty sore from that. So he came home Friday. He said, "Oh, my buddies are going here and there." And he was thinking about going. And he said, "You know what, Mom? I think that I am just going to chill tonight. 'Cause I have lacrosse tomorrow, sore, pretty tired. Been a long week. I think I'm just going to take it easy tonight." And I was like, so happy inside because I'm thinking he's getting it. He's getting it and he doesn't have this crazy FOMO where even though he feels tired, he's pushing himself to go anyway because that's what his friends are doing. So I was so happy to hear and see him make that decision on his own. And
Mhm.
I think that part of that has to do with the discussions that we've been having and just the decisions we've been making as a family to pump the brakes a little bit and not be going full speed ahead every single day.
Yeah, and I love that example so much because we often forget that kids are really just emulating how we live our lives,
Yeah.
right? And I think the piece that's so important is communication. I love that you communicated to them, "Hey, this is how mommy is, and this is what I need in order to be able to XYZ." And so just like, "Hey, we're all working together." A family is like a representation of the world, right? Because when they do go out in the real world, or they're older and they're doing their own life, that's what they're really gonna think about. It's like, "Wait a minute, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to have ebbs and flows of activity, that it doesn't always have to be go, 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 and it also doesn't have to just be completely slow and nothing," right? That
Exactly.
there's a
Right.
balance, and that's what we're all learning in this process. It's how do we balance all the different things? How do we if slowing down is something we really wanna implement in our life, which I like what you said, instead of being reactive. So it's creating versus reacting. It's busy versus focused, right?
Yes.
So slowing down is really about taking care of where we are in the present moment so that we can take care of all those pieces that are coming up. If we're too busy rushing or not giving ourselves enough time to breathe through situations, we miss some lessons, and we also can tend to then be more reactive rather than
Yep.
stop, look around what's happening, and then create what you want. So the fact that he was able to see that and to do it on his own, to have that self agency to say, Mom, I think, I'm doing this and this, but I'm gonna I mean, that's just amazing at how old is he again?
He's not quite 12 yet. He's 11 and almost 12. So,
That's that's
yeah.
huge. Yeah,
I
that's
was
amazing.
I was I was so happy when that happened because I really thought, okay, this is sinking in and it's sinking in,
Mhm.
in a positive, healthy way. He was fine with it because
Mhm.
he's like this. He was just
Mhm.
kind of commenting on it, like, yeah, this is what I need. I need a chill night. And
Mhm.
it wasn't, oh, man, I have to miss this and I'm the only one. It was nothing like that. And I think that the sooner a kid can learn that, because like I said, I feel like I really only learned it not too long ago in my adult life. So had I learned that sooner, I am certain I would have been able to make some decisions and choices along the way that would have really helped me a lot and made me feel calmer and healthier and stronger. And I know there were
Mhm.
times when I was kind of second guessing myself and getting in my head, like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want to do all of these things? They want to do all these things. Why?
Mhm.
It feel right to me, but I would sort of push through it
Mm.
and make myself do them anyway because that's just I was raised in a think it was kind of a generation of, well, that's just how it is. It's just how it is. That's what you
Mhm.
do.
Yep, we're
And
just gonna push through it.
yeah, going to talk about it. I
Yep.
don't really want to know how you feel. We're just going to go. We're going to do it. Put your
Mhm.
head down. That's just how it is. And
Mhm.
occasionally there's a time and a place for that, but not all the time. And if something really, I'm going with my gut a lot more, I'm using my intuition. And if it really just doesn't
Mm.
look like, it just doesn't feel like it's the right fit for that day or that season, whatever it might be, I am getting better at recognizing that and taking a minute. I think slowing down is also taking that pause to, it might only be a minute or two, but to just think it through for a second. Think about,
Mhm.
if I say yes to this, what is this going to look like? What is this going to mean? And make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also the importance of, as a mom, taking care of what you need in that moment and communicating it so that your kids know, like, hey, if I'm over here doing a meditation, right? Making sure they know, like, you're not absent, right? You're still their provider. You're still taking care of them. And you're letting them know, hey, guys, I'm just going to step out real quick. I care about you. I'm thinking about you, and I'll be right back, right? It's just, I need to take care of this logistics, or I need to do this meditation, or whatever it is, right? That you may need to do is so important. The communication.
I feel like I used to make almost excuses like, oh, well, I'll be real quick. I'm just going to go do this or do that. And I'm thinking, no, I don't have to rush through it. They're fine. And
Hmm.
if I need a night, last night, my little one's, "Oh, can you read to me for a while?" And and I love that, and I know she's 8 and she's not gonna wanna read with mom too much longer. So, I do try to make every effort, but I had a few things going on. My husband was home. I said, Dad can read to you tonight. It's not like it's not gonna happen." But I was super tired. I had worked all day, and I had a few things I had to do, and I said, "I can't do it tonight," and I told her why,
Hmm.
and sometimes I need to just go be in my room and read for a little while and just take a break from it all, half an hour. And I think that's
Yeah.
okay. And I'm not going to feel guilty. I used to feel guilty about it, but that was all coming from me. It wasn't coming from anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do those things. And it's okay to model those things for our kids. And they need to
Hmm.
know that if they need a half hour to go read or if they need to go take a bath and chill for a little while, that's okay. They don't have to rush through it. They don't have to make an excuse for why they need it. They can just do it. And
Yeah. And also recognizing the they all have different needs, right? So, like both talked about, like our moms were very active, right? And it was sort of like that. You just push through it, you do it, you go, you work, you do the thing. Um, but being able to recognize, wait a minute, maybe this particular child's energy is operates a little bit different, and we didn't have all the knowledge, right? And I think some other generations maybe they didn't grow up in the age of, let me just Google it, right? Or let me just find this out. Like it was just a different experience. um, and so I think, of course, our parents did the best that they could. But I think for me, I'm not a parent, but I know, having done a lot of inner child work, it's been so evident to me how important it was for me to have been talked to through processes that they were going through that just felt like, well, I'm just over here taking care of it. And, kids are doing their thing, but it's like, hey, I just want to let you know, this is what's going on. So I think that's so important. How has going fast or let me ask it the other way around. How has going slow helped you to actually go faster?
ooh, I love that. Because it's true. I have found that. It sounds kind of counterintuitive and um But I have found that when I am clear on what I want and what I'm doing in the moment, I'm just more
Mm.
productive for the things that I need to do. They tend to happen quicker. And when tap into my intuition a little bit more and listen to myself, I can really kind of capitalize on when I feel creative and when I'm in that type of spirit and that type of mood and when I just need a break. Because the old me, if I was exhausted and just not having the best day, whatever it might be, I would still, if I, in my head, if I had, five things I was supposed to do that night after the kids went to bed, I would still force myself to do them. And I'm telling you, they might take 6 hours because I'm not all there. I'm exhausted. I'm not giving it my
Mhm.
all. And I don't do that anymore. Now I recognize this is not happening tonight. It can wait till tomorrow. I will be much better off by going to bed earlier and starting over the next day. We get a reset every day. We're so
Yeah.
lucky. Get a new day.
Yes.
And when you wake up recharged and refreshed, you could get that 5-item list done in no time because you're focused and you have the
Mhm.
energy and you're in that right headspace to do it. So I feel like it does help me to fit more in, but the kicker is that it's the more of the right things. So not just more and more
Mhm.
and more just to say, "Oh, I was so, I checked 20 things off the list today." Nope, there is reason and intention behind the things that I'm doing now. Whereas before, I didn't always stop and think, "Okay, well, why am I doing this? Does this really need to be done? Am I doing it because I think I should be doing it? Or am I doing this because it's the right thing to do?" And our lives constantly change. When I was teaching, a big part
Mhm.
of our lessons and lesson planning and just reading the room was monitor and adjust, monitor and adjust. And we would do it
Mhm.
all day, every day. And that's life, right? We always are evolving and we have to kind of monitor the situation and pivot and make the adjustments that are necessary at that moment. So I'm doing more of that now in my personal life and
Mhm.
able to do it better when I'm relaxed and I'm not tapped out, have more patience with my kids, have a better relationship
Mhm.
with my husband because everything I I feel, and it's not all the time. I mean, definitely not all the time. Like we said, it's a process, but overall, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm making better choices. So it just serves us all around better. And we're able to do more of the things that we want to do that fill our cup, that make us feel recharged, grow closer as a couple, as a family, all those things. And then in turn, we individually feel better. So kind of a win-win.
Mhm. It's so true, and we are navigating a whole new world,
Yes.
even though a lot of us have kinda gone back to some of the things that we were doing prior to COVID, but I think that really taking as much as we can in the lessons, if you're back to going, going, and going, just remember to go back to that time when you were slowing down and what you got out of it, right? And maybe what you do is you just squeeze all the gifts that you received through that time to understand how to maybe incorporate that into your everyday life. Again, it doesn't have to be that you're just looking at the wall all day or at the trees all day, right? But how can you create more balance and water not just one plant, the plant of, the train that keeps going and going, going, but maybe you're watering other plants in your life that allow you to slow down and look at life. I love how we even have current world examples of this. And I think so many moms can relate to this as well. And also, uh, just other women. Um, and it was Jacinda Ardern's resignation. She's the New Zealand Prime Minister. She chose to step down because of burnout. And when I was listening to her speech about why she was doing it, it was so I honestly got chills because it was an example of what it looks like to have so much responsibility in your life and still have the courage and the empowerment to do the thing that you know is right for you in that moment, right? Like, how many of us are running around saying, how can I stop when I have this and this and this and this responsibility? And someone like her who said, I have a whole country to run, but I recognize this is not my role anymore now. Things have changed. So slow down enough to even be able to say, hold on a second, I'm not the same person, or this situation is not the same, and I've changed,
Exactly.
or I'm
Right.
more who I am. And there's a quote that she said, that something that she said at the end of this interview, and I just loved it. And I quote, she said, "Mom is looking forward to being there when you start school this year." I was like, wow,
Yeah.
right? It's her priority
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful to see your example, to see her example, to see how, yes, you can be running, have a million things on your plate right now, but it's okay to let some people down. It's okay to step back, because if it's not right for you and you burn out, then you're not going to be able to help anybody, right? You're not
Exactly.
going to be able to step
Exactly.
in. And so, what is it that we're prioritizing, or what is it that we think? And this is a question for all the listeners listening to this now. What is the one thing that you have said? How could I slow down if I have this XYZ? Then start to maybe journal or talk to a friend and start to look at the possibilities. I really believe in this whole idea of the divine third. Sometimes we think it's either quitting or going super strong. And maybe there's like a divine third that says, you can still sprinkle some of this, right? Kind of like you did.
Yep.
I love that. Like, okay, these 2 seasons, we know they're busy, but we're going to make sure that we incorporate enough rest and a break in between, and to model. Even actually, when you said that, I thought about the season and how the closer we are, how important it is to work with the earth and to experience nature, because nature has its own cycle
Yep.
and we are nature. We are part of this planet. We have our own cycles, right? As women, and also just as humans, there's a cycle to your life. Doesn't mean every single, you're not in high school your whole life. You're in high school for a time, right? Then you go into a different part of your life. So it's okay to look at it and to mimic nature in that way and to get closer to that balance. There's a time for everything, you know?
Yep. Exactly. And I think sometimes we forget as we get older, okay, well, I did 5 years ago, I was doing X, Y, and Z every day, and that was important to me. And then we have this, I would have this heaviness in me that I'm supposed to be doing all these things in the back of my mind, always thinking I had to do all of these things. And then I really took a step back and thought, well, that's what I used to do, but that doesn't work for me anymore. And it
Mm,
seems so simple, but it's pretty
mm,
hard. It's pretty hard to truly grasp that. At least it was for me. And I believe that if you don't take those few minutes to slow down, or days, whatever it is that you need, if you don't have those moments where you can just be quiet with your own thoughts, even if you are an extrovert, I think we all need to just step back and listen to ourselves once in a while and check in, just like we would check in with, a good friend. I am learning to be a better friend to myself.
I love that
Yeah.
so much. It felt like waves of comfort and beauty, right? We can be such good friends and we forget, like, we're the number one best friend here. Like, we need to be
Well,
kind to
yeah,
ourselves.
and I feel like I'm a pretty good best friend, and I'm
Yeah.
there for my friends and my neighbors and my people, but I wasn't very good to myself. I was really harsh to
Mhm.
myself. I was very critical, and I was not always saying the nicest things to myself in my head, and it took me a while to realize that, and it was I didn't realize I was doing it, and that was just the noise in my head going on for quite a while. So now I try to think, well, what would I tell her in this situation? What advice would I give my friend if she was coming to me in this situation? I know what I would say. So why don't I take my own advice? Why don't I do those things? Why am I treating myself so different and not giving myself that grace?
Yeah, beautiful. What would you say to someone who really wants to slow down but doesn't know where to start? What tools or what advice would you give them?
I think what helped me was to start sitting with my own thoughts, just whether it's meditating, praying, just sitting there and keep a journal next to you. I'm not a huge journaler. I'm doing it more and more lately, but keep more there so that I don't forget. All these thoughts start, if you
Mhm.
really quiet the mind, things start popping up and it takes a while. And I would caution anyone who hasn't really done that before to give it a little time. It's not like this instant, oh, okay, now I figured it all out. God's telling me everything I need to do. Doesn't work that way. You need to do it for a while. And just to
Mm.
start small, maybe sit for 5 minutes and just see what comes up. And maybe nothing comes up. Maybe you just need a 5 minute break, but maybe
Mhm.
things will start to come up, and jot those down and just start to notice, start to be more aware of that inner voice and try to listen to it. I think I spent a long time trying to quiet it and just put my head down and do the things thought I was supposed to do. But we have a lot in us. It's already, I think I've learned that it's there all the time. That peace and that calm and that whatever it is that you're looking for, those words come to mind for me because that's what I feel like I'm always looking for and craving. But whatever it is that you're looking for, you probably already have it, but
Mm.
you're just too distracted and too caught up in whatever it might be, life, because our lives are, it's a busy world, it's a crazy world. But if you take that time and maybe for you, it's not just for me, it's sitting still with like a cup of coffee, or coffee's on my list too. The wine, the dark chocolate, and the coffee. Yes. So in the morning, it's going to be coffee, not wine. But it just some people, and for me, when I was younger, it used to be going on a run. That was sort of my therapy. Go for a run. It would clear my head. So whatever it is for you, to just be quiet with yourself. If that's moving, if it's sitting, and I think that you'll learn a lot, and maybe just start listening to that inner voice and see what happens.
How has faith played a part in your ability to strike this balance or, to feel more ease in the process of choosing to be more intentional and slowing down?
I noticed that every Sunday when I would go to church, I would feel calmer. I I just
Mm.
had that hour of peace. I started to realize that, again, tapping into what feels right, I needed that time with myself. And although I was listening to, at the service, I was listening and taking it all in, but I was pretty quiet. And it was a chance for me to let those thoughts come up and let those thoughts surface. And I do pray very regularly. And I sit in the morning when I do sit with my coffee for a little while. I always do a little Bible reading, and I always ask God to help me be who He wants me to be. So
Mm.
I think this whole journey is really about trying to figure out, we're all unique. We're all here. There's only one of us. We're all here for a reason, and we have one shot. And I think that it's important to try to live out the purpose that, whatever your reason is for being here, I think the world needs it. So sort of our civil duty, civic duty to figure out what it is that we're here to do
Mm.
to serve others. I think that we're all here to serve others in one way or another. And I feel like my faith has really brought that out in me. And along those same lines, modeling that for, my children, and also giving back. I if
Mhm.
you are if you do belong to a church or wherever you go, my family has gotten more involved in different ministries at our church and helping others. And one of them is a special needs ministry that we help with and we're heavily involved with. And when I tell you that that brings more joy and makes my heart just, I feel like I think of like the Grinch in, Dr. Seuss, where his heart grows. I feel like that happens to me every time I'm at these events and working with these beautiful people. So I think that that is how my faith, I think that that has been a way God's been giving me a little push, like go do these things and, just listen to your inner voice because he'll guide you. And
Mhm.
I really clung to that as I've gotten older. And I have also turned to it more, especially I think with the pandemic and with certain just crazy things that have happened in the world. I feel like there's nowhere else to look but God. I just pray because I'm like, I don't know what
Mhm.
else to do. I'm just gonna pray about it. And it's brought a lot of peace to me. So I think that it's important for everybody to have some kind of faith, whatever religion you are, or whatever it looks like to you, if it's meditation, whatever. But having that quiet, having that guidance makes a big difference.
It does. It's definitely been a big part of my life as well. And I think being able to know that you're not here by yourself and you're not just co-creating, uh, or just creating yourself, that there's something that is really able to help you co-create the world and your own life, your own world, right? Your circle, your family. Um, and that's there for you. Like, I think faith has been a huge, huge important part of my journey in slowing down as well. So I would like to play a game
Ooh,
before you go.
fun. I love
Mhm.
games.
I know, maybe we should start with the game, right? So, all right. It said that we are what we eat. So, based on that, what would you say that you are?
Oh. Hmm. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. I would say I'm gonna just go with lately. I'm Simple Mills crackers. I'm obsessed with them. I've been eating way too many of them. They're really good.
Right, you're a cracker. That works, right?
Crackers and chips.
And okay. What is your favorite destination for rest and relaxation?
Hands down the beach. Any beach. I like the
Mm,
Outer Banks. We go almost every summer. Jersey Shore is good, but the Outer Banks are quieter. So generally that's my
okay.
happy place. But honestly, anywhere where there's some sand in the
Oh,
ocean.
sure. Yes, yes. And if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Ooh. Oh, that's pretty good. I often joke that I wish I could clone myself so I could get everybody where they need to be. So I would probably like to clone myself.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, especially when you need to work out, right? You could just send the clone.
Yep, exactly.
The work.
Yeah. Like, when it's without fail, if you have one activity on a certain day, but every kid has one activity, they're all at the exact same time. It's unbelievable how that happens.
It's true. It's so true. And I do like working out, but for the record, but there are days when yeah.
Oh, I would
You
love
just
it.
want to
Yeah, I
send your
would love
clone.
to send my clone to the gym. That would be great.
Amazing. Anne-Marie, thank you so much for being so beautiful and for sharing your stories. I think, it is possible. You have 3 kids, and a beautiful family, and I think the way that you've been able to navigate through this is so beautiful to see and how intentional you've been. And I'm just so excited to continue to follow you on your journey. So, how can people follow your journey and hear more from you?
Well, the podcast is called Let's Slow Down, and you can listen pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, on all of those platforms. And I'm not a huge social media person, but I am there. And it's Let's Slow Down 2023 on Instagram would be the easiest place to find me. So
Love it. We will make sure to put everything in the notes and definitely go and listen to it. I love it. It's so calming and it's such a beautiful reminder that of how important it is for us to do that. And I think if there was a time of any to have a podcast on slowing down, it's right now. So thank you for that.
thank you, Catherine. I love talking to you.
Me too. Bye.